21% of the world's oil passes through a waterway only 33 kilometers wide at its narrowest point. One choke point, one crisis. Everything that happens here affects fuel prices, food costs, and global shipping worldwide. What is actually happening in the Strait of Hormuz? And how serious is it? A narrow strip of water, just 33 kilometers across at its tightest squeeze, separates the Persian Gulf from the Gulf of Oman, and beyond that, the world's oceans. On the north side, Iran's rocky coast stretches out anchored by Keshem Island and a chain of smaller islets like Larak and the disputed Tums. To the south, the jagged Musandam Peninsula juts up from Oman, its cliffs dropping straight into the sea. The seabed here is surprisingly shallow, about 50 to 60 meters deep, leaving little margin for error when massive tankers pass through. All commercial shipping follows a strict traffic separation scheme, enforced by the International Maritime Organization. 2 parallel lanes, each 5 nautical miles wide, run east to west like invisible highways. Outbound ships to the east stick to the southern lane, while inbound vessels from the Indian Ocean keep to the north. The lanes themselves take up only a fraction of the total width, leaving just a thread of navigable water between reefs, shoals, and the rocky outcrops that dot the strait. The rest is hazardous, too shallow for deep draft tankers and too risky for anything but patrol boats or fishing dhows. Major ports, Bandar Abbas and Qishm in Iran, and Fujairah in the United Arab Emirates, feed directly into these lanes, funneling crude oil, liquefied natural gas, and container traffic into the tight corridor. The physical constraints are absolute. A single grounded ship, a deliberate obstruction, or a string of naval mines could halt the flow within hours. The geography here does not just shape navigation. It turns the Strait of Hormuz into a natural bottleneck, a place where the world's energy lifeline is always within reach of those who control the shorelines. International law draws a hard line through the Strait of Hormuz. Under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, Articles 37 to 44, define this narrow channel as an international strait. That means every ship, from the largest oil tanker to the smallest container freighter, has the right of transit passage. Coastal states like Iran and Oman can set safety rules, but they cannot suspend passage or block the strait, even in times of crisis. The only requirement is that traffic moves continuously and without delay, a principle reinforced by decades of maritime precedent and the 1949 Corfu Channel case. What happens in this 33-kilometer corridor ripples out to the entire world. On any given day, between 17 and 18 million barrels of oil a day, about 21% of the global supply, flow through these waters. Add to that 10 billion cubic feet of liquefied natural gas, most of it bound for Asian powerhouses like China, India, Japan, and South Korea. The numbers come straight from the International Energy Agency's latest tallies. No other maritime route moves this much energy in such a confined space. Pipelines offer little relief. The largest overland alternatives, the Saudi East-West Line, Iraq's Kirkuk-Ceyhan, and the Fujairah route in the United Arab Emirates combined, can shift barely 2 million barrels a day. That leaves more than 15 million barrels with nowhere else to go if the strait is blocked. For energy markets, this is the definition of a single point of failure. Any disruption, whether from mines, naval standoffs, or legal disputes, has the potential to send oil prices soaring and trigger a chain reaction through shipping costs, food prices, and global inflation. The legal guarantee of passage is not just a matter of maritime tradition, it is the backbone of modern economic stability. On March 3, 2026, a formal notice to mariners flashed across shipping channels declaring a new interdiction zone in the Strait of Hormuz. The coordinates, stretching from 25 degrees 30 minutes north to 26 degrees 15 minutes north, and between 55 degrees 30 minutes east and 56 degrees 30 minutes east, covered the heart of the world's busiest oil corridor. The U.S. Fifth Fleet, backed by a carrier strike group and destroyers, announced that any vessel attempting to enter Iranian ports without clearance risked interception. The message, posted on the U.S. Naval Forces Central Command site and relayed by the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, cited international law and UN Security Council authority. For tankers queued at the Gulf's mouth, the stakes became immediate: ignore the order and face boarding, comply and lose millions in delayed cargo. Just after dawn on March 4, the Iranian-flagged tanker MAV al-Bakir, IMO 970123456, sent its last AIS signal from 25 degrees 45 minutes north, 56 degrees 10 minutes east, well inside the declared exclusion zone. U.S. warships closed in, broadcasting warnings over VHF. Crew aboard the Al-Bakr reported warning shots fired across the bow. Within minutes, the tanker was forced to halt. The U.S. boarding team arrived by fast boat, securing the vessel and transferring the crew to military custody for questioning. The incident, tracked in real time by commercial platforms like Marine Traffic and Kepler, was confirmed by both Pentagon briefings and shipping logs. This was the first direct kinetic exchange in the Strait since the 1980s. The rapid escalation from legal notice to armed interdiction set a new precedent. The world's most critical oil artery could be throttled not just by mines or blockades, but by the enforcement of exclusion zones and the physical seizure of ships. The message to global markets was clear: no vessel, regardless of flag, could count on routine passage. Every transit now carried the risk of interception, delay, or worse. Naval assets from both sides remained on high alert as the crisis entered a new and unpredictable phase. Iran's seizure of the MV KOAL on March 7, 2026, pushed the crisis past the point of legal maneuvering and into open confrontation. The KOAL, a Panama-flagged product tanker with a crew of 12, was intercepted by fast boats from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Navy as it entered the northern traffic lane. Its last position, logged by the International Maritime Organization, placed it just west of Lorak Island. Within minutes, the ship's AIS transponder went silent. Iranian state media broadcast images of masked commandos boarding the vessel, and the crew was transferred to a holding facility on Qashm Island. Shipping data from Kepler and Marine Traffic confirmed the KOL's abrupt stop and disappearance from commercial tracking, sending a chill through maritime insurers and operators. The United States responded within hours. Under the codename Operation Epic Fury, F-35 strike aircraft, launched from the USS Gerald R. Ford, targeted Iranian coastal defense sites. Pentagon statements and satellite analysis later confirmed precision strikes on radar installations near Bandar Abbas and surface-to-air missile batteries on Qashm. The choice of targets was deliberate. These were the eyes and shield of Iran's anti-access network, the very systems that enabled the KOL seizure and threatened further interdictions. Footage released by the Department of Defense showed guided munitions hitting radar domes and command vehicles with secondary explosions lighting up the coastline. The strikes were calibrated to avoid civilian infrastructure, but the message was unmistakable. Any attempt to close the strait would be met with direct, high-technology force. For the 12 KOL crew, the ordeal ended after 48 hours. Iranian authorities released the sailors unharmed, citing humanitarian grounds, but the vessel remained impounded. The incident set a new threshold. The crisis had moved beyond warnings and legal notices to a cycle of seizure and retaliation, with both sides demonstrating a willingness to use force inside the world's most critical oil corridor. Every subsequent transit now carried the risk not just of delay or inspection, but of becoming the next flashpoint. When tankers start taking fire in the Strait of Hormuz, decision-makers reach for the history books. In 1988, Operation Praying Mantis saw U.S. warships strike Iranian oil platforms and naval vessels after repeated attacks on merchant shipping. The result was swift. 3 Iranian ships were sunk, coastal radar was knocked out, and a temporary calm was restored, at least for the tankers that survived. Fast forward to 2019, and the British-flagged Stena Impero was boarded by Iranian commandos and held for 65 days, only released after a quiet round of back-channel talks. These episodes are not distant memories for today's admirals and policymakers. Each crisis left a playbook about how fast escalation can spiral, how quickly global oil prices react, and how the strait's narrow lanes can turn into a bargaining chip. The echoes of Praying Mantis and the Stena Impero shape every risk calculation in the current standoff, reminding all sides that the margin for error is razor-thin. Oil markets react to risk in real time, and the Strait of Hormuz crisis has triggered a sharp repricing across the globe. Within hours of the first vessel seizure, Brent futures jumped by $20 to $40 per barrel, according to EIA scenario models. Tanker operators now face war risk insurance premiums that have doubled, reaching $420 per day, an increase confirmed by Lloyd's underwriters. For a single VLCC, that is an extra $250,000 per round trip. Shipping analysts warn that even a limited disruption in Hormuz can raise global transport costs by 12% and push food commodity prices up by 3 to 5% within weeks. The asymmetric threat, including mines, drones, and missile attacks, means that no insurer will guarantee routine passage. One senior energy economist put it bluntly, this is not just a regional scare. The credibility of the world's energy supply chain is on the line. Every escalation in the strait translates directly into higher costs for fuel, freight, and everyday goods worldwide. Right now, 2 rivals face off where global energy supply can be squeezed by a single miscalculation. The world's economy remains hostage to a 33-kilometer-wide corridor, and neither Washington nor Tehran can afford to blink first. In a world built on fragile roots, escalation is just one crisis away.